Hello and welcome to this workshop on 2025, how to focus on the journey. My name is Katrina Horn and I'm a life coach and I help my clients do exactly that, focus on the journey. And I'm going to talk about this metaphor today of life as a journey, and you will see why. If you're here live, feel free to participate in the chat. I would love to know where you're listening in from. If you're watching the replay, welcome. Welcome. You can still comment in the comment box below, or you can write to me personally via email, or perhaps message me. I'm not really sure what possibilities there are on YouTube where I'm going to post this replay, but feel free to contact me. I'm going to talk about the journey for many reasons, because I feel that in the new year, we've got a tendency to want to set those big goals, right? Because we really want our lives to shift. We want to create change. And we think that, oh, if I'm setting a really audacious goal, well, then I can feel motivated and I'll start doing things and that will help me move along, which can be true. It can be true for you. But what I'm also going to offer here is that if you look at the journey to where it is you want to go, you can break down an audacious, perhaps even daunting goal into small, actionable steps. So I'm going to talk about your journey there for two reasons. But before that, I would like to talk about this metaphor as life as a journey. So we're all imagining that we're here somewhere and we want to get to this island that holds everything we've ever wanted. On that island, there is perhaps a new position at work that we are longing for. There is the more money we want. There's the better health. There's perhaps our life partner. There's everything that we ever wanted. It's over there on an island. So we're here somewhere. And what we can start focusing on now is how we're going to get there. It's about the journey there. How are we going to get there? And we all want that island to be in an elevated environment, and we all want to be feeling good. So that's sort of a very general thing. But when you think of it, when you think of that island and where it is you want to be, there really is no right and there is no wrong. So somebody else can want a life partner and you think, no, I want to start my own business. And really, what's on the island is just a matter of choice. And it's about what we believe will have us feel really, really happy. We believe that whatever is on the island will have us feel good. And that's why we want to get there. So that's the same for all of us. It's just like a matter of preference. And in the same way, how we get there is a matter of preference. Because if I continue my metaphor here, we can take a plane, or we can take a sailboat, we can take a rowing boat, we can swim there. So anything really goes. Anything goes, but it's a matter of choice. How do we envisage getting there? So if you're with me on that, let me move on. I hope you can all hear me. My audio is telling me that it's working. Right, but maybe you can't actually hear me. If you're here, could you let me know in the chat whether you can hear me or not? I'm not so sure. Let me just take 1 minute to check that out. Can you hear me now? Right. Oh, thank you, Angela. Angela tells me she can hear me. So I think we're all good. So getting ready. What I would also want to talk to you about and imagine is instead of setting those hard goals that I know in the coaching world, it's all about like performance and setting those big goals. I like to talk about dreams rather, because for me, that's much more enticing. And what I've really recently started thinking about, well, what if I talk about a promise? What if I make myself a promise that whatever it takes, I shall get myself there? What if that is an option? Like thinking of it as a promise I'm making to myself so that I don't get into that performance energy. I don't get into that sort of having to prove things energy. It's just like, okay, I'm promising myself that I will take me there. And if you know me, I don't know if anybody here knows me, but maybe some of you on the replay will know me that I want to live in a chateau. And chateau is just French for castle. And why do I want to live there? Well, for many reasons. It's most of all for the beauty I want to share with other people. But if I imagine myself sort of having to strive towards that, it doesn't feel very good to me. But when I think of myself as making a promise to myself, that I will get myself there. It's a promise I'm making myself. It can feel really exciting. It can feel really loving, warm, gentle. It can feel like something that is really worth my spending my time and effort on, if you see what I mean. So play with that yourself, this idea of making yourself a promise. And coming back to this idea as life of a journey, I want to talk about the journey for two reasons. Because once you talk about the journey, you can break it down. And instead of having something which is so daunting, you just start telling yourself, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. I couldn't accomplish that. I haven't got the capacity to do that. You can just start thinking about, well, how would I actually like to get there? What can I do today? What can I set up for myself later on? And what direction do I really want to go? And it gets to be a lot less daunting. The second reason I want to talk about the journey is that as a society, we have got zero tolerance for something taking time. Like we want immediate success, don't we? We want immediate results. And we've got very little patience for things taking time. Right? Is that you? Like, we want something immediate to take place once we've formed the idea, like we want immediate results. And I think that that can actually be doing a disservice to us, because if it doesn't happen immediately, we can start giving up. So what about if we gave ourselves a little bit of time to accomplish what we want to accomplish? And that was really brought home to me the other day when at a networking event, I met a woman who heard about my dream of living in a chateau. And she said, oh, I'll come and visit you there. I'm coming over to France in March. And I was just like, yeah, it's not like, let me get any old chateau and let me move there before March. This is like a life's dream. And she just wouldn't have it. Yeah. So we'll all come over there and have fun with you in your chateau. And I just thought, well, why does my dream have to be something immediate? Why can't it take time? Why can't I enjoy getting there? Why can't I allow myself to enjoy becoming the person who does that and who lives that? So that really created this awareness for me that we are very quick to dismiss ourselves when we take action and there are no immediate results. I think you'd agree with me on that. So taking action and not seeing the results, we feel that, oh, this is really discouraging. And that brings me on to one of the first points I'm going to talk about, which is focusing on the process. But before we go there, there's a lot of talk about manifesting your dream life and manifesting your dream man and manifesting your dream job and all this idea of manifesting. If it works for you, great, really great. But I also, for me personally, I feel that if I tell myself, oh, I will manifest a chateau, well, it sort of takes away my power, because how can I then be responsible for getting myself to the chateau if it's just like by divine intervention that it will sort of land on me? Of course, I believe that I'm deserving of it and all of that, but I mean, I want to know how I got there, right? I want to be the person who does it so that once I'm there, I won't be afraid it will just be manifested away from me again. If you see what I mean? I want to be there both psychologically and physically. Like, I need to know, oh, I can see how I can get there. Just sitting here in my chair thinking, oh, a chateau will appear and I shall magically be living there and it will all be good. And that just doesn't work for me. If it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, please listen on, because this is really what it's about. It's about knowing what you can do and then take responsibility for what you can do and not try to control what you cannot control. Like, if I were to think about what I cannot control, it's really looking at the chateaus or the castles that go on the market. Like, I have got zero control of who wants to sell their chateau and when. Right. But I can be in control of being on the lookout. I can be watching the platforms where they get advertised. Like, I can get myself ready, if you see what I mean. So that part I control. The other parts I can't control. So let me not focus on what I cannot control and let me take responsibility for what is within my power. So that's why I talk about the journey there and why looking at the process of getting there is so important. Also, when you think about the process, it's much more about enjoying all the steps to get there. It's not about only being happy when you get there, because we do that so often. Like, we tell ourselves, oh, if only I lost 20 pounds, I would feel so much better and I would feel more desirable to the dream man of my life, or whatever it is we tell ourselves. And we sort of withhold that happiness, and we think we have to get to somewhere different before we can get happy. And I'm sure some of you can recognize that. Let me know if that is you. So let me just dive straight into the content. I'm really going to talk about 4 things, but before I do that, let me just posit, I should say, that whatever you've been doing up till now to get you to where it is you want to be has all been relatively comfortable. And the reason you're not where you want to be is because you are holding back from doing that uncomfortable thing, that scary thing, what I call doing the hard things. And often that hard thing is feeling the hard feelings. So I'm going to talk about 4 things. The first one is, well, focus on the progress rather than the end destination, what the benefits are and how you do that. Secondly, I'm going to talk about belief or trust, because we need to believe that something is possible. Otherwise, we're just not going to take action to get there. We're going to run out of steam. We're going to give up. So belief is really, really vital for us to keep taking those action steps. Number 3 is willingness to do those hard things, to do what you haven't done before. And I'm going to talk about feeling what you are trying to avoid feeling. And fourthly, I'm going to talk about letting go of what's not coming with you, what really you can leave behind, what's not part of your dream life, what's not part of your dream, what's not part of your promise, your goal, or that island that you're headed for. So if we dive straight in, if there are no questions, if you're with me on this, let me just check that there are no questions. Okay, so maybe I'm overwhelming you. I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. Progress instead of end destination. I would like for you, just for a minute, to focus on how far you have already come. And to do so, you can think about a time in your past where you weren't feeling great, where you thought that, oh, wow, this is really a setback, or I'm so far behind, or whatever it is you were thinking. And then look at you now. It could be you before you passed your degree. or you before getting your first job, or you before becoming a mother, or whatever it is, like you before where you are now. And then see, just notice, oh, well, actually, yes, I have come a long way. Because we don't notice that with ourselves. We notice that with our children. I say our children, but I don't have any. But if you notice, if you've got children, then you can't really see their progress because it's sort of incremental, it's very slow, and it's over months and years. So you don't notice. But if you see a photo or a video of your children from 6 years ago or 10 years ago, you see, wow, yeah, what an evolution, right? What change has happened? And I didn't even see it as it was happening before my eyes. So this is what I'm inviting you to see with yourself. How far have you come? How far? So your brain is wanting to draw your attention to everything that you still have to accomplish, like everything you haven't done yet. But if you allow yourself just to notice, well, actually, this has happened, that has happened, so on and so forth, well, it feels so much better. And it can also be rocket fuel to propel you onwards, right? Because if you can see that you've already shifted, if you can see you've already evolved, that you have created progress, well, then you're so much more willing to keep going. You're not going to give up because you're nurturing that belief. Oh, this has already happened. Now, let me look at what's next. So, useful questions to think about when you are focusing on progress is, how am I closer to where it is I want to be? And you can say, like 2 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, how is it that I'm now closer to where it is I want to be? Maybe you want to lose 10 pounds, you've already lost 4. Maybe you want to save up $50,000, you've already saved up 10. Maybe you want a new job and you're not quite there yet, but you've been to 3 interviews. Focus on that and look at the time where you hadn't even done any of that. So I would say that from 0 interviews to 3 interviews, there has been progress, and then revel in that. How is it that you're closer now to where it is you want to be than 10 months ago, 10 years ago, whatever? Look at that. And then also, the question I love is, how am I closer to who I want to be? Because I think getting to where it is we want to be, it's just as much, if not more, about being the person we want to be. What do you think? So when I talk about being the person we want to be, it doesn't mean that we are only one thing, because we're many things. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. We are many things. Well, who is it that you want to be among all those many things? What would you choose, actually? And how is it that you're so much more of that person now than you used to be? Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Brilliant. So good. Moving on. Let me talk to you about the belief and trust, which was my second point. It's not really a problem if people tell you that you can't do what you want to do. Like all my life, people have been telling me I can't do what I want to do, yet I have somehow been able to do some of it. And please believe me when I tell you that there are many things I haven't done, and I haven't done them because I stopped doing them. I stopped doing what it would take to get there because my focus shifted. I got other desires. I changed my mind. I found something better, whatever it is. But there are many things I haven't achieved in life, and that is not a problem. It's not a problem that people tell me, oh, you can't do that, or that hasn't been done before, or whatever version of that is. The problem is when we start believing these people. Do you get the difference? Because people will always sort of reason from who they are what they want, what they believe. So it's very difficult for these people to, if you're different from them, to get it that you're different and you want something different. So that doesn't mean that being different, we are better or worse. Like we've still got all the same intrinsic value. So we're not really talking on a value scale. We're just talking equal but different. So that different, what if you didn't make it a problem? What if you didn't make it mean that you were wrong? And I was stuck in that for so, so long. I made myself wrong for being different, for wanting different things, not liking the same things, and just being different. Every time I was different to other people, I just thought, oh, you got this wrong. So I don't know whether that rings any bells for you, but that idea of making yourself wrong because of difference, I mean, that doesn't serve us really. So if you didn't have to believe what other people believe of you, of reality, of the world, of your capacities, of their capacities, all of that, if you didn't have to buy into that, if that was just another opinion, and if yours was just as important, well, how would that feel? What if you could just allow yourself to want what it is you really want? Wouldn't that feel good? Like you didn't have to argue with anybody. Most importantly, you didn't have to prove anything to anybody. Least of all to yourself. If you just took that sort of whole proving energy away, that would also take away a lot of the pressure, wouldn't it? Like, I'm going to talk about my chateau again. And when I do so, it's just to say that I'm not proving that this is a reasonable thing to want to anybody. I'm not proving to anybody that I can do it. I'm coming to that with sort of curiosity. Oh, how? How am I going to bring this about? How will I enjoy it? And what other people think or do around it is really immaterial, right? I don't need their approval. Of course, it's nice when I meet other people who get it, and I often do. Like other people who've got big dreams. When we get together and they can see my dream and I can see theirs, and we can sort of feed off each other about that, well, that feels so, so good. And I really want that to happen as many times as possible. But I don't need it because it can be enough that I want this, that I believe it's possible, that I can sort of design my way to get there, that I get to decide all of the action steps. That can feel really good. So if you didn't have to prove that what you want is that you're worthy of it, that it's that is somehow a valuable thing. If you didn't have to prove that you could do it, if you didn't have to prove that you were right, you didn't have to prove that this was the right thing and people who didn't want it, well, they were slightly wrong or they were sort of suffering from a misconception or anything like that. If you didn't have to prove anything, well, how would that feel? First of all, how would that feel? So I would recommend that you decide where it is you want to go. You decide on that island, what's on it, and then you nurture the belief that you can get there. You start looking around for all the evidence of how it's possible for you to get there, because we do find what we seek, don't we? So I like the quote, which goes something along the lines of, you will always find what you seek. So if you believe you can do it, you can. And if you believe you can't, well, you're right in both instances. So what if you shifted your mind round to the idea that this is within your reach, and then just nurture that idea? And I would like to say, make yourself the promise. Make yourself the promise that you can get there. I'm not saying by yourself, like you can ask for help and you can have support, but really make that promise to yourself. What have you got to lose? So that brings me to my second point. Oh, is it the third point? Yeah, it's the third point. Sorry. First point was the journey as progress. Second was belief or trust. Now I'm on to three, doing the hard things. Well, the things that have been stopping you. You have got an idea of the perceived price to pay to get what you want. So you believe that you have to give up something that you don't want to give up to get there. And if we take a very, very simple example of weight loss, because it's so tangible, if you think, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds, I will have to give up sugar. I will have to give up alcohol. I will have to give up dessert. I will have to give up going out for dinner, all of that. If you believe that you have to give up all of those things, well, then you're just going to think, well, is it really worth it? And what if you could either change what you believe you have to give up or how you feel about it? What if these doors were open to you? And and I'm going to give you two examples, just like as an imagine as an what shall I call it? Imagination experiment. Sorry, I was looking for my words there. So if you looked at a dream of finding a life partner, that ideal relationship where you feel valued, where you are valued, and where you can value the other person, be the support, all of those gorgeous things. What if the only thing that is stopping you from going out and finding that partner is your fear of rejection? What would change if you were willing to go ahead and feel the rejection? And you can look at this in a sort of experimental, fun way and ask yourself, if I knew that I would find my ideal partner on the 13th of September, would I be willing to feel rejected on the 1st of August? And I don't know whether that sounds crazy, but I really think it's such an interesting thought experiment because, well, would I? And me, I would say, well, of course I would be willing to be rejected 10 times if I knew it would take me to my ideal partner. Makes sense, right? I would be willing to do this if I was certain that it would bring me what I would want. And is that the same for you? And if you're not certain, well, then I would suggest that you either find a different way there where you don't have to feel rejection, right? I think that would be difficult, but anyway, or that you think differently about feeling rejection. Another example would be, which is still very tangible, if you wanted to be financially independent. And what if you knew you'd be financially independent on the 23rd of April? Would you be willing to invest your savings on the 1st of February? So it just really shows you how willing you are to believe that the action you are taking, that will bring you there. It's just like you can measure, oh, actually my belief is not really that great because I'm not willing to do the hard things. And what if you were willing to do the hard things? And I would even posit, what if doing those hard things are exactly what will get you there? What if going out there, feeling rejected a number of times before getting to the right person, what if that was the price to pay? And what if you could pay it? What if you were the person who could live through that rejection without making it mean something dreadful about yourself? Because in these situations, it's not just feeling the rejection, it's what you make it mean. Because if you're here with me, we could be sitting here all together now feeling rejected. We could have that feeling come up. But then what are we making it mean? Are we making it mean that I'm being rejected, it must mean that I'm undesirable, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, that nobody will ever love me. What am I making it mean? And if I could separate the meaning from the feeling, would I be willing to feel it? I'd love to know in the chat if this makes sense. So let me have a look. Welcome if you're joining now. So good to have you here. Let me know in the chat if this makes sense. Does it make sense that if you were willing to do the hard thing, well, that could be just a thing that would actually flip you over on the other side of getting what it is you want to get, being who you want to be, or having what you want to have, being on that island you're heading for. So 2 more questions for you here. What are you willing to risk to get you to where you want to be? And I love to think about emotional risk and all the feelings we're avoiding. Like, I'm often avoiding disappointment. And the way that shows up for me is that I don't go all in. Like, I sort of tell myself, oh, yeah, well, don't expect too much. Or, oh, this is not certain. Right. So it's as if I hold myself back a little bit so that when things don't pan out how I want them to, well, I believe I don't feel as disappointed as I would have had I gone all the way in. So now over to me to explore how I can have my own back feeling disappointed. How can it be okay that I feel disappointed? And I think part of it is that we sometimes make it mean, if we meet with failure, that we will always meet with failure, that our attempts will never meet success. But then just think about it. If we don't take the action, that might have us feel like disappointment, deception, sad, whatever. If we don't take the action to get to that feeling, the risk of the feeling, well, maybe we're already feeling it now. Maybe there's always a little bit of already a little bit of disappointment, a little bit of sadness, of deception here, right here. So what if I'm just diluting the disappointment and feeling it a little bit all the time, feeling disappointed a little bit all of the time, because I'm not living life to the full. I'm not living that dream that I want to be living. What if actually I just went ahead and did the things that I might think would have me feel what I want to avoid feeling? What if that would actually propel me onto the life I want to live? What do you think? And what if you could make that the objective of 2025? So it's easy to let rejection bring us down. Yeah, this is definitely makes sense. Yeah, thank you. And it's a great reminder to stay on the path towards our goals and not let others' opinions get in our way. So well said. So well said. Yes. So rejection, I think disappointment, sadness, or I don't know, other feelings that are sort of standard that we all try to avoid. But I know that for me, disappointment has been like the major one that I'm protecting myself from. Perhaps less and less, I hope, like I'm focusing on the progress. But maybe there's still some more disappointment for me to be felt out there. So that was my first question. What am I willing to risk to get to where I want to be? Second, how much or how often am I willing to challenge how I think? So it's again about what we make things mean, but we've also got these beliefs that are somewhere deep inside us that we believe, oh, like with my chateau or my castle, I used to believe you had to be born to one. I thought you had to be noble to have a chateau. Like, I didn't know you could just go out and buy one. So we can have these silly beliefs, and often they are not that easy to get a look at And once we bring them into the light, we can start to question them. So are you really willing to question your beliefs or your thoughts? Are you willing to challenge them? And some of the ways that we could challenge how we think is how we think about ourselves. So I'm not the person who can find the love of my life. I'm not the kind of person who could make millions. I'm not the kind of person who could start a business. I'm not the kind of person who blah, blah, blah. So when we think about ourselves, are we really willing to challenge that idea? Or we could say, oh, in the present economy, I couldn't possibly make a lot of money, or I need qualifications to be able to make more money, or whatever it is we put in the way. Are you willing to challenge those beliefs? Are you? And if you're willing, well, how are you going to do that? What do you want to believe instead? And even more importantly, I think if you're willing to really manage your own mind the way you would if you manage a toddler or a puppy, or like somebody who's not in control of themselves, like if you somebody you constantly have to tell, do this or don't do that, like, are you willing to do that with your own mind? Are you willing to train it to think what you want it to think so that you can get to where it is you want to go? Are you willing to do that hard thing? Are you? And I hope you're saying yes, because managing your mind is something you can learn. It's really just a question about starting. It's about getting into the habit to notice what it is you're thinking. And if what you're thinking doesn't serve you, well, change it. And then it's, well, with my clients, they're sort of disappointed that it's not enough just to say, oh, I want to change that, instead of thinking, I can't, I can't make $10,000 a month. I just start thinking I can make $10,000 a month, but there's everything in between. How do you get from believing you can't to believing you can? There's again a journey. So how patient can you be with yourself going on that journey, and how consistent can you be with yourself really every day, practicing those new thoughts that will have you think differently about yourself and about what you want to achieve, what you want to accomplish. It's like that everyday action you need to take. It's not once in a lifetime. And again, I mean, if you think about manifesting as just something that magically happens, I don't think you can really change that. It's sort of opening up to a new possibility. It's about nurturing that belief, those new thoughts, coming back to them, practice thinking them. And with my clients, we often practice the I am statements, where we look into the mirror every morning or whenever we're in front of a mirror, and we say something that we already believe about ourselves, but then also something that's a little bit of a stretch that we don't quite yet believe. So maybe you want to get go in front of your mirror and tell yourself some of the things that are a little bit difficult to believe. And then watch what happens. Once you start believing them, things will happen. I do guarantee that. And whether you want to call that manifesting or not, I don't know. But it's really fascinating to notice when you're willing to change how you think about things, how you think about yourself. It's really fascinating to notice what happens in your outside circumstances. Maybe you've had some experiences like that. If you have, I would love to know. So, and also a sort of a disagreeable stop here on our way is that we have to get ourselves out of the victim mentality of telling yourself, oh, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. It's sort of the excuses and the obstacles that we notice and tell ourselves we can't. What I would recommend is that you take full responsibility. As I said at the beginning, you take responsibility for what you can be responsible for. And today, I would really like to invite you to take responsibility for what you think. So we're used to taking responsibility at work, aren't we? We're used to take responsibility with our children, in our relationships. Like, I think we're willing to get on board with that. But are you really willing to take on full responsibility of all the thoughts that go through your mind? And if you're willing to take on that responsibility, are you also willing not to not beat yourself up about them? Are you willing to not make yourself wrong for having them? Just noticing them, just noticing these thoughts and how you could be able to change them. I think that's really, if you're willing to just go on that journey, that in and of itself will create miracles in your life. So taking on that responsibility and then start thinking of yourself as that capable version. And some people tell me, well, Katrina, I want to be authentic. But there's so many ways that we are authentic in. Like there's the authentic of slobbing around on your sofa watching Netflix. There's the authentic of you being efficient at work. And there's the authentic of you being a caring mother. And there's the authentic of you in so many ways. So, well, what is the version really I want to build up? And how can I nurture her? And that's when I go into all this talk of self-love and self-care, because I really think that if we could think about self-care as how can I best support myself to be at my best, we get sort of behind a lot of the guilt, and we can, I think we can allow ourselves to support ourselves in so much bigger ways. Like this can really be life-changing if we think of us in our best possible expression, in our best version, in that capable, responsible way we can be. And then we look at everything that could be in place to support that person. So we get out of that idea that it's selfish or I shouldn't be resting, I should be getting on with it. Well, actually, if I want to be at my best, I need rest too. So that is the subject of a whole new workshop. So I'm not going to go there, but just think about what if you started taking full responsibility of all the thoughts that went through your mind? What then? What would be possible then? So you are no longer interested in that victim person that we all are. Like we are all sometimes in that victim energy. Now, I'm inviting you to notice is when you go there, when you start pitying yourself, when you start telling yourself, oh, I haven't got the energy, I can't do that, and all of those things that get you away from your best version, just notice it. And just know that it's so human to go there. Like it is so human and there's nothing wrong with it. But also notice how you can pull yourself out of it by thinking something different. So what's coming up for you? I would love to know in the chat if this is making you think differently of how to get to where it is you want to be. What if it was just like a matter of looking at it differently? One, looking at it as a process. Two, believing that it's possible and doing the hard things, like being willing to really manage your mind, being willing to take full responsibility for what you can control. And then my fourth thing, which is letting go of what is no longer serving you, what is not coming with you to that island. So let's imagine you have been overeating. So maybe on your island, in your ideal life, in your ideal version, you would no longer be overeating. It would not be you anymore. So what is no longer coming with you? So overeating could be a stop on the way to your ideal body, whatever it is. Overeating could be part of your journey there. So you could say, oh, this is not coming with me. And then again, look at what you're making it mean. What is it that you don't want to bring with you? And if it's not coming with you, have you got any idea of sort of sacrifice or a price to pay for it not coming with you? because it's become part of your identity, hasn't it? So think about smokers who smoke, like, because they are addicted, of course. But if they stop smoking, they will be feeling the craving all the time, won't they? Like when they see a cigarette, they will be tempted. So they have to keep sort of avoiding the temptation or resisting the temptation for a long time till they change out of being a smoker to becoming a non-smoker. And that's a whole period of becoming somebody different. That is so difficult because we are constantly tempted. So on your journey, if you're overeating, well, it will be part of your identity for a while till it becomes who you are. Person who no longer overeats, easily able to resist temptation, easily able to feel all the emotions that you have been suppressing with the overeating, right? Because when we do something to excess, when we do something that doesn't serve us in the long run, it's really just to help us deal with those difficult emotions. So when you're no longer dependent on food to deal with your emotions, to suppress them, but if you're willing and able to feel them freely, you no longer need the food, you no longer need the cigarettes, you no longer need whatever it is you're doing to excess. Well, then who are you? And then what becomes possible? And I think talking about that price to pay, or we could look at it as a sacrifice, if we are willing to just imagine that we would no longer look at it as a sacrifice once we had become that person willing and able and capable of getting to where it is we want to be. So if you're a smoker now, it's very difficult to imagine no longer wanting to smoke. But once you have not smoked for 10 years, it's so much easier. But right now, if you are a smoker, it's almost impossible to see how you can get there. If you're thinking of yourself as an under-earner, it's really difficult to see yourself as a millionaire, right? As somebody who's got an abundance of money, because you're not there yet. So there is this element of belief, and there is this element of training your mind to believe something differently. So reframing thoughts, I'm reading from the chat, is a constant challenge. Yeah, when I put in the work, I feel happier. Yes. I'd like to leave negative thoughts off of my island. Yes, I understand that, Angela. You are so right. Can I also just offer that the negative thoughts will always be there, even on the island? Like, we are human. So there's no getting rid of the negative thoughts. We can learn and we can train ourselves into not listening to them and not believing them. We can train ourselves into changing them, but they will always be there. They will be different ones, right? But they will always be there. So I hope that makes sense and it's not like putting you off. That was not my intention. But if we're just realistic about being human, we've got negative thoughts, we've got positive thoughts. Some of the negative thoughts actually serve us because we don't want to think positively about war, do we? I mean, I don't. We don't want to think positively about children dying from starvation. Like, there are some negative things in life and we can have negative thoughts about them. What we don't want to nurture are the negative thoughts we have about other people, about ourselves, and all of the things that are no longer serving us. So we want to stop those negative thoughts, but instead of getting rid of them, if we get used to just transforming them and being able to transform them, having a routine down or a habit down of noticing them, spotting them, and then immediately questioning them. And I think really to start reframing, as you so correctly say, that the first step is to notice, is to sort of pick them in the moment. To notice them, oh, I'm having that thought. Oh, is that serving me? If it's not serving me, What do I want to think differently? And I know it sounds like, oh, well, you can't think, because we believe that our beliefs are like facts. We think our beliefs are reality, don't we? So it's so good just to have that reality check. Well, what actually is reality? And once we're willing to believe that, oh, well, actually, this is not reality, it's just something I'm thinking. I've thought this thought so many times that I now believe it's reality. That's all that's happening. It's not a big deal. So, my coach the other day was talking about imagination, and she was talking about Santa Claus and why a parent wouldn't want their children to believe in Santa Claus because it's not real. So, you can have whatever opinion you want on that. But isn't it lovely to be living life with a little bit of that magical thinking? So we haven't only got our noses in what's true right here, right now. But if we had access to that magical thinking where we can start imagining things being different, and I think when we can start imagining them being different, we can start imagining doing what it takes to get there, don't you? So I personally don't think that believing in Santa Claus when you are little is a problem. I think it's part of life. And had I had children, I would have wanted them to believe in things like fairies or anything magical that is joyful. No, Santa, how depressing for children. So good, Leanne. Yes. Isn't that isn't that just thought-provoking? What if actually I could imagine something out there? I could imagine it. And if I can imagine it, well, maybe I can make it come true. I'm willing to believe. And I think for many people, just being willing to believe is the absolute first step. And as I say to my clients, you don't have to believe it yet. You can borrow my belief, because before it's again being that smoker who can't imagine not wanting a cigarette, or that overeater who can't imagine resisting food. What if somebody else believed for you that it's possible and you borrowed that belief? I think that's such a good thing to be able to do for my clients. Like, I see them where they want to be. And if I can see them there, it becomes so much easier for them to see themselves there. Imagine if you had somebody who could talk to you about you being where you want to be, having your life be exactly what you want it to be, talking to you about it, what you'd be doing, how you'd be feeling, and all of that. Imagine that. Wouldn't that be easier then to believe that it was possible yourself? What do you think? Interesting. Right now, I have to write a 3-page vision for my life and business for the next 3 years, and it's difficult. Well, why do you have to? I don't think you have to, Leanne. Why do you say you have to? Oh, you're on a course. Yeah. So you can be on a course and you can choose to do the homework or not. If you choose to do it, well, why would you want to think it's difficult? Is that serving you? If you're believing it's difficult or you don't pass, well, why is it important to pass? Really go into all the uncomfortable things. And what if it was joyful to write a vision? You ask me to write a 3-page vision, I'll be going, yes, let me get on with it. Yeah, you paid for the course. This is so good. So just notice how you invested. You invested, and you're telling yourself, for me to get something out of my investment, I have to do the homework. I have to pass a course. Am I right? Otherwise, I will have wasted the money. What are your thoughts on that? But I love that you're investing in a course. I love that. But what about you getting really clear on what it is you wanted out of the course and then make sure you got that? What is it that you're really wanting to get out of the course? Fitness and wellness certification. Brilliant. I love that. I wish you the best of luck. But how is it that you could? Oh, yeah, the last part. Yeah. Well, I would definitely pull out all the stops, and instead of changing the circumstance, which is writing a 3-page vision, I would change the thoughts I had around it. Instead of thinking it's difficult, I'm thinking this is joyful. This is absolutely joyful. How can I make it fun? Well, maybe you can talk about it. Talk to a friend about it, record it, and then press, AI can transcribe it into text. And then you could be reading it out and you could be editing it. Would that be more fun? Yeah, I find that when daunting things like that, not a vision for me, but other things, like if I had to write an accounting report or something like that, I would try to make it fun. And well, how could it be fun? Talking to me is easier sometimes than writing. Sometimes writing is easier, but what about just talking and then editing that? So, but just notice that your thought was, this is difficult. And when we come to any task, any dream, any goal, any promise with the idea that it's difficult, well, how big are the chances that we're going to enjoy the journey? How big are the chances that we will get there and it will be what we imagine it to be? Let me know. What would you like to say again? How can I make this fun? I was talking about you can either change the circumstance. So you can say, I'm not going to write my vision, or you can change how you think about it. You can say, oh, I don't need certification. I don't want certification. Or if you don't want to change that, you can say, how can I think about it differently? How can I make it fun? How can I make it enjoyable? So how it edits your words. Yes. So you hop on Google and you search out software that transforms audio to text. Audio to text. Google that. Sometimes there's a time limit on it, but then you can just use different softwares. They're free ones, like you can do it now. Yeah, I mean, it's instant. You can do that now. Well, as soon as we finish here, right? So you can, what I just said to Leanne was you can change a fact or you can change how you think about it. So if you want to feel good and you feel you're overweight, you can lose weight to help you feel good, or you can start thinking about being overweight differently as something actually really joyful, as something desirable, right? That's all within your reach. So I hope that this is making sense. And I know that you know that I'm always so, so happy to hear from you. And I hope that you know that I'd be more than happy to talk to you. And I can actually go ahead and, as I usually do, post in my link to my scheduler so that if you want to talk to me about your plans, your goals, your dreams, or your promise to yourself, if you want to talk about how you can overcome those limiting thoughts, how you can change them, how you can make it a habit, how you can ferret out what is getting in the way, if you can stop being in victim mentality, if you can stop telling yourself you can't do it and all of those things, well, then what would be possible? We can go into that together. We can paint your vision. I'm not talking about a three-page business vision, Leanne. We can talk about really your vision for your life. and why 2025 is perhaps the moment where you feel, let me take action on this, actually. This feels so doable. Like what I've been talking about, the 4 steps, looking at your journey towards your goal as progress, belief and trust, willingness to do the hard things, and letting go of what is not coming with you. If you could look at that as, oh, well, the way you explained it is actually really doable. Let me get on with it. Please go ahead. Please go ahead and make that promise to yourself. I would really love that. I would really love if, without a time limit, perhaps you told yourself, this is where I want to be. This is my island. I really want this for myself. I'm promising myself I will get there. What have you got to lose? Really? What have you got to lose? If there is no set time for you to get there, if you can enjoy the process, if you can enjoy the journey there, what have you got to lose if you just promised yourself, look, I'm going to take care of this for myself. I am willing to take full responsibility for all the steps there. I'm allowed to be wrong. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to make it completely doable to get there. I really want that for myself. So if you want that, please go ahead and click the link in the chat. If you're watching the replay, there will be a link somewhere around here. On YouTube, it will be in the description box, I think you call it. If you got an email with this replay, well, then you can click the link in the email and I would love to talk to you. I would love to show you really how you can break it down, what could be getting in your way, and how you can easily, elegantly, effortlessly get around that obstacle as soon as you start thinking about it differently. So what would be possible if you were willing to do the hard things? And by the hard things could mean thinking differently, feeling differently. And what if you took charge of that? What if you were the person who could change it? You're so welcome. Oh, it's all my pleasure. I could talk about this for the next 24 hours, right? I'm so happy you joined me here live. I'm so happy if you're watching the replay. Let me know if I can support you in any way whatsoever to get you to that much more joyful place where you are living more of what you want in life. So why not make 2025 that time? I would love to talk to you. So please go ahead, click on the link, and I shall talk to you very soon. Bye for now.